almost tie game. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the No Blood, No Foul podcast. I'm your host, Jim, and today I'm only here with Moo. I guess a lot of my guest hosts are kind of slacking and aren't able to show up on a Friday night. But Kyle's here also on the ones and twos. How could I forget? How could I forget him?
I am very
Tonight,
forgettable.
well, yeah, I got nothing to say there. So the Knicks went down to Miami, or actually, no, that's a lie. The Knicks went down to Orlando and beat up a terrible Magic team. Honestly, it must be hurricane season down there because the Knicks made it rain. The Knicks shot a record 54 three-pointers, hitting 24 of them. Never done anything like this before in their entire lives, and it was incredibly boring to watch. Um, Knicks just ran the Magic off the floor. They didn't even look like an NBA team out there. Franz Wagner was the guy that one of my least favorite prospects coming out of the draft was actually the best Magic player today, scoring 16 points. The Knicks were led by Julius Randle, of course. He scored 21 points, followed up by Evan Fournier, who scored 18. And we got some great minutes from Emmanuel Quickly and Obi Toppin. All right, Moo, tell me your thoughts about this massive blowout by the New York Knickerbockers.
The Magic, they're just really bad. Wow. I missed a part of the first half, so I was I thought I would actually just miss the first quarter. They must have been like really bad and really fast, and the game must have been moving really quickly. But yeah, what I've caught, I mean, Cole Anthony, wow, he doesn't horrible. I don't know if he has any actual real basketball skills that you can actually win with. I mean, that's just kind of how bad he is from my standpoint. He can't finish. He gets open. Yeah, I mean, he gets open. He can't finish. He can't shoot. I'm not sure what else is there.
There's nothing else.
Yeah, there's got to be something else. I mean, they played against a really bad team. There's no way around it. So what they did up by 35, 36, that was surprising. But in a sense, it's also not because that team was really bad. And the Magic, I think they got blown out the first game too, right?
They did, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a long road for them. The problem they have is I don't know that they have any, really high ceiling, potential franchise guys. They have a lot of really talented young players.
Do they even have any NBA players? Is the real question.
Are you not fans of Jalen Suggs?
I mean, he looked bad tonight too.
Yeah.
I was a fan of his coming out of Gonzaga, but I had my biggest fear about him is that he never seemed to like take over. He was very comfortable with playing his role, and he not to say that he had low motor because I don't think that's true.
No, he had a really high motor. Yeah.
But he was just very comfortable to be just one of the guys, and that was always my biggest concern about him being a top 5 pick. Like, you have to have an edge to you. Like, RJ Barrett has an edge to him, even though he's like slid into a role now, but like he has an edge to him, and like that's kind of one of those things that you need with a top 5 pick. You need to know that they are ready to bring it, and I don't know. I just don't see that with Suggs.
I think with Suggs, what worked against them was actually playing at Gonzaga. They had a really great team, a lot of talented players, and just a winning system. So I think for him, he fit in well, right? Because the way he plays, he's smart, he's aggressive, and he does all the right things. And it works great. But when you take him out of that type of environment, you drop him into like the mess in Orlando, what can he really do?
Right.
I think that's more of a system shock. I think he'll adjust. I know I made some comments on the forum, but I think he will adjust and he will get better. Cole Anthony will not get any better than the Charlotte Magic fans. But I think Suggs will get better. But I think for him, it's really a lot bigger than adjustment than some of the other guys because of the team he played on. He has talent.
Cole's so bad, I'm worried he would struggle in China. Like he's that
He
bad.
is not good. Um,
And I was like a fan of his, not like a huge fan, but I thought that the UNC team he was on was so bad that there's like a little bit of chance that he was held back because of that. Boy, no, wrong,
no,
wrong,
yeah.
wrong, 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 wrong.
Yeah, I was very clear. You know, I think he was definitely overhyped. I just didn't see what he did well from an NBA perspective, even from a college perspective. That deserved the hype, and you know, he hit the hype kind of died. I think a lot because of everything that was going on. But even still, he just doesn't have any exceptional skill that would work in the NBA. I thought that was the case when he was coming into college, when he was in high school. He was featured a lot, right? He has a big name, and he can do those things in high school, which gets a lot hard. Obviously, jump from high school to college is huge, and from college to the pros is even bigger. And he just can't adjust. He doesn't have the athleticism. He doesn't have the ball skills. He doesn't have the shooting. Um,
That's
when
what's
you
so shocking too is that he dominated the college. Like he wasn't just good in high school, he
Mhm.
dominated
Sure.
high school. And he was the best at all of those like McDonald's All Americans, the NYBL. Like he was the MVP of that stuff. That's why it's almost shocking that you can go from one of the best high school players to being like, I don't think this kid can play basketball at all.
I mean, that's the same thing with Mo Bamba, right? Bamba, I think, was ranked really high, and he
Yeah.
hits the NBA, and he's kind of he looked, you know, spotty, a lot better. I think the last two games than he had ever last season, but he's still a long ways off. And it's not just about talent or just about what you can do in high school. It's how mentally tough you are and how much of your game actually fits NBA, right? So if you're really explosive or you're really lengthy, you're really tall, or whatever it is, right? That there's certain things that work and certain things that don't. When you're going up against guys that are, you know, in high school, you're going with like, you know, guys that are maybe like barely 6 feet tall, right? 5.5 feet, 6 feet tall. That's one thing. But then you go to high school and you go to NBA and all the guys are faster and taller than you, right? What can you do? Um, you need something. That's why it's really, I don't know. I never saw it. I didn't see it. I didn't see anything about his game that would hold up when the competition gets really tough. Like
So I feel
that's
like we're kind of like doing an
yeah,
Orlando
we're stuck on.
Magic
Yeah, sorry.
podcast because,
Let's talk about the
uh,
Knicks.
yeah, I mean, there's just not really that much to talk about other than how horrendous this Magic team is. Like, they got to fire their GM. Like, I know Jonathan Isaac's hurt, and I know Markel Fultz is hurt, and
Mhm.
I think they have another guy that they really like.
That's
I don't
right.
know. Gary Harris is pretty solid, but he's out as well. Um, where should we start? Should we start with Julius Randle?
Yeah, let's talk about Randall.
I mean, what do you say about Randall? I mean, he was great again tonight. He almost put up a triple double, 21, 10, and 7, 9 of 16, 9 of 16 shooting, only 2 of 6 of 3. Um, Gibbs is a maniac by putting him back in with like 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. I'm not really sure what we were trying to get out of there. There's like sometimes I see like the rationale behind what Tibbs is doing. Uh, Putting Randall back in the fourth quarter, I just can't wrap my head around that.
Yeah, that's hard to. I mean, I could see it if the Knicks were. I mean, they were still up by what, mid-20s at that
Yeah,
point.
I think
yeah.
it
I
got
just
down to we were up by I think 18 at
18.
one point.
I mean, you bring him back in there to kind of slow things down or you know level things off, keep people from getting too excited or if they're starting to slip. But it's always risky when you bring in somebody like that when you're so far ahead. I mean, Tibbs, I don't think he said no lead is big enough,
right.
so not even 30 points. So, but yeah, the thing that really is impressing about Randall is I don't remember last season him really kind of putting the ball down and exploding to the basket,
Yeah,
right?
he had 2 big dunks tonight.
Right, right, and that's kind of surprising because I don't remember really. I'm sure he dunked last season, but I don't remember any.
Yeah,
But
RJ had he found him on the roll on a nice,
right,
I think it was a nice bounce pass, and Randall like hammered it home. It was like a real explosive dunk too.
yeah, looking really spry. Um, I think that his defense is also still, better than it was last season.
Yeah.
Um,
Again, I didn't think it was possible for him to get into better shape, but he's in
he
better
looks
shape.
in, it looks in quicker.
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess let's talk a little bit about Evan Fournier. Evan Fournier revenge game, 18 points on 5 of 12 shooting, 4 of 9 from 3. He shot some free throws, 4 or 5. Um, yeah, it was his revenge game. It's tough to talk about a game like this where it was just like an absolute domination, and we're like looking at like two completely different teams that are like in completely different trajectories.
The one thing that worried me was when the Magic started playing zone, and
Yeah,
right, just like last season, they just couldn't figure it out, and it's hard to put your finger on what their issue is, right? Because if teams overall struggle like they do against the zone, you see a lot more zone, but
yeah.
you don't. So last season with the zone, it was lack of guys that
We
could
didn't
create
have any
offensive,
shooting. Yeah,
right? This
now we
season,
have
I
the
don't know.
shooting.
It's still hard because what happens when they went into the zone? The Knicks started passing east and west around the perimeter, wasting the clock, and um, so I don't know. That's something
Yeah,
that
let me
they're gonna
pull
have
up the
to.
third.
Yeah.
Let me pull up the
Can I
third quarter
can I
numbers.
say the thing I saw was they really struggled for about 6 to 7 minutes, and then they started realizing, all right, the Magic are sending two guys at one, so somebody's going to be open, and they just started swinging the ball, and it found the open guys, and then they started knocking them down. I think they were
Right.
missing a lot of quality threes against the zone, which was kind of like regression to the mean from a really hot start.
So
That's true.
what
Good
I'm
point.
looking I'm looking at the third quarter stats now because that's when they switched into the zone. We went 3 of 12 from 3 during that quarter. So I think that says it all. Like the rest of the game, um, we're 21 of 42. Like that, like so.
Wow.
I don't know if it
Uh,
was the zone that threw us off or we just were missing shots.
Or it could
And
just be, the guys coasting a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that I think that was the case too. Like we got real sloppy and we had like a bunch of turnovers in the third quarter, and that's actually when I like kind of zoned out. I was just like it was just like we chucked 3 after 3 after 3, and it was like hitting
Quick
backboards
threes. Yeah.
over and
Yeah.
over and
Yeah.
over and over again. And like that's what I'm like a little. I'm like super glad that we're embracing analytics and we're shooting more 3-pointers, but uh, tonight it was just like a 3-point contest, and like the Magic were doing the same thing. I mean, how many threes did they shoot? It was definitely 40 plus.
They
So,
took a lot.
yeah. So again, it was just pain. It was just not an exciting. Yeah, they shot 43 3-pointers.
The
It was
the
just
difference though is the Magic. They took what basically were ISO threes, right? Somebody gets the ball, you kind of like dribble it a little bit. Doesn't matter who's guarding you, you just chuck it.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
we had 34 assists.
right,
They're 24.
right.
So obviously the ball was flying around like crazy for us. I mean, we had 3 guys with 7 assists tonight.
Oh, really?
Burks, Rose,
Burks, yeah.
and Randall all had 7 assists.
That's weird because Burks again with this, he does his thing, and it doesn't seem like he's really trying. Then before you know it, he's got the assists, he's got the threes, he's got the points, he's got and he does it
Well,
with
I
a
think
smile on his face.
both him and IQ are very streaky. So to have them both hot at the same
Right,
time,
right.
unfortunately, we wasted that on a really bad Orlando Magic team.
Oh, by the way, guys, Brooklyn, Philadelphia just ended. The
Wow.
Nets won.
Or it would have been
That
nice. It would have been nice to be 2-0 and then 0-2.
right,
It would
right.
have been real fun. A little bit of bragging rights and
No.
such. Oh, all right. So who else should we talk about a little bit about? Kemba Walker had a bounce back game. Any thoughts on Kemba Walker?
It was bounced back in the sense that his first game was just awful. It's I think it's a better game. He didn't really play much in the second half, did he?
No, Rose actually had more minutes than him, and out of like our regular rotation guys, he was the only one with a negative plus minus.
Yeah, and it
Uh,
seemed like it because
yeah,
I didn't catch the first half. I think that's when he did really well. Right, and this when I watched him in the second half, I was like, this is the same guy that was in game one. He just didn't touch the ball as much, which
yeah,
means
no rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block, 1 turnover.
right. That
So a nice 1-to-1 assist to turnover ratio.
I mean that it's still early, but at some point, that's what he's doing is not going to be okay.
Yeah,
Um, so let's see if it. Hopefully, it's just him trying to regain his legs and trying to get a feel for it. But eh, just of the minutes I've watched him play, he doesn't seem like he's exerting himself.
yeah.
He's kind of like lackadaisical.
Well, I mean, there was a time he was matched up with Wendell Carter, and he couldn't take Wendell Carter off the bench.
Right,
So
right.
that's not a good sign.
That's a concern.
Yeah, again, I don't know if that's just like he seemed like he took off this summer, so maybe he's like just not in the greatest of shape. Um, but yeah, he didn't look super duper great. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just going to be a red flag to keep an eye on for the future. But I feel like he might be our punching bag.
Yeah, let's
God,
hope. I mean, let's hope for the best. But game one, I had Dame Lillard in my head constantly in a Knicks uniform. Right, and we didn't have that when they announced with the Walker signing. I think folks started, saying, okay, you know what, maybe we don't need someone else. And between Walker and Rose, we're very good. So far, 2 games in, I don't know, it's not very good. So overreacting maybe, but it's not good. I'm a more negative guy. Anyway, so I noticed the negatives. Right, first game was Walker just being awful, and Mitch being sluggish and slow. Mitch looked faster, so that's a pretty decent 1 game uptick. But Walker to me still seems to be off.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's just a learning curve. Because everyone told me that Kemba wasn't washed last year, that he like had put up big numbers like certain months of the year,
Mhm.
and I'm just not really seeing it right at this moment. Like I said, maybe he's just getting adjusted, and then that's the good thing about having Derrick Rose here,
Right.
and is that we have that other option to go to if we feel like Kemba's just not going to be able to bring it. And you know what? Like that's also the perk of not having Kemba on an $8 million a year contract as opposed to the max contract. Like,
Oh, if it
I
was a
know
max contract, we'd be
yeah,
yeah,
I'd be up in arms and I'd be protesting outside MSG.
yeah.
But um, yeah, let's just hope for the best that there's something more. Another interesting thing that I'll point out right now: we went 9 of 17 from the free throw line today. Uh,
That was OB primarily, right? Missing was it
yeah,
OB that was
he went
over?
1 of 5, and then RJ went 1 of 3. Now I'm a little worried about. There seems to be there might have been a little bit of a regression from RJ's free throw shooting from last year. I hope that's not the case. But I've noticed he's missed back-to-back free throws twice this year already. Obviously, small sample size. I might be overreacting, but just something to keep an eye on. We were hoping that a little bit more progression in his free throw shooting. He made a big improvement last year, but I don't want him to regress back to the mean.
Yeah, he really can. I think for him to really take the next step, he's got to draw fouls. Right? Even if you get stuffed, I mean,
Yeah.
get your body in better position. Draw a foul, and you start shooting threes, and that'll allow guys, force guys to lay off of you. But if you
He
can't,
did yesterday. He shot
right,
6 free throws yesterday, but yeah, today RJ didn't really have it. He ran pick and roll pretty nice. He had a couple nice a couple of nice assists. Only 2 turnovers. Funny enough, he was 0 of 5 from 3, and he was 3 of 3 from 2. So everyone's saying that he can't finish. He finished pretty well today.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
And I think this might be more of a forum post, but there was a big debate on like how to describe or like how put nomenclature on RJ Barrett's role or like what type of player he is. And like Mello is like big on calling him like a role player and 3-and-D player. And today he kind of played like that kind of guy, but I think there's more to him than just that. Um, that's
yeah, I
why
think
like I think like when people say role player and 3-and-D player, I think that kind of like you look at your like Reggie Bullocks of the world and Joe Harris's of the world, and your Danny Greens. Like they're kind of like
yeah.
one-dimensional specialists, and I do think RJ brings a little bit more to the table because he can run pick and roll and he can play make a little bit.
You know what I always say to that? I always say there's a difference between saying somebody can't do something and saying somebody's just bad at doing something. So
Right.
RJ is just bad at scoring outside of spotting up. It's not that he can't do it. Somebody like Bullock can't do it.
That's true. Yeah,
Yeah, but because like I mean, there's like a whole category of players that aren't necessarily all stars that are solid players like Mikel and Miles Bridges is your Joe Engels is your Bogdanoviches, and they're like not 3-and-D role players. They're like a step above that. Like they do things outside of just the one. Like for me, like when I see Mitchell Robinson, he's a role player. He doesn't really have any offensive skills. His one role is to intimidate people at the rim and grab rebounds. That RJ, you can expect him to grab boards, shoot jumpers, and like play make. And similar, like and again, Miles Bridges tonight put up 30 points. Like you wouldn't consider him an all star or like a piece, but he's like a starter level player. I think that's the nomenclature that I like.
yeah. I
Starter
think I
level.
think I think that's kind of where RJ fits in. Can he get better? Yeah, I mean he can. Right? He seems like he has the right type of mentality. To not let not doing as well as let's say Zion, his buddy,
Yeah.
um, negatively impacts him. But I think he does have a cap, right? Because of his balls handling skills, things like that that will cap how far he can go. But I think um, at peak,
He did have that
I
nice spin move tonight.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know if you caught that or not.
yeah.
That was like a first half thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think he can. I don't think he'll ever be an all-star or at least a perennials. He may make an all-star team at some point down the
Yeah.
road, but I don't think he's a perennial all-star, which is fine. It's not what Nick fans, I think a lot of Nick fans want to hear, but
Yeah.
it's not bad. Even if he ends up being kind of on a, and I've used Thaddeus Young a lot. That
Mhm.
type of level, right? Not exact same skills, right? But that level of player, right? And Young in his prime, he was like 17, 18 points a game. Um, that type of a guy who can, just go in there and be smart and you rebound and you just do things that help your team win.
See,
Um,
I always compared him to like Gordon Hayward. I always imagine RJ being like a 18 to 22 point scorer.
only thing
Or
Hayward's
so.
better with the ball,
Yeah, I mean Hayward is better with the
right?
ball, but like this was like my pre-draft prediction for RJ,
Mhm.
and I still think if you gave him more pick and roll opportunities, I don't know if he would thrive in it, but I think he would see a little bit more on creation from him. I think he had a
I think he,
mid-range jumper for tonight. I was making a pizza, so
Yeah, he did. It was pretty nice.
yeah,
he's on a crowded team. I think that's part of his problem. I think I mentioned it. Um, there's no superstar. But superstars sometimes make it easier for guys like RJ, right? So I think he's even now, especially now this season, he's on a crowded team, so he's not going to get the opportunities to score. It's just kind of the reality of it. Doesn't mean he can't get better. But I think it will limit him at some point. If we're team player, I don't know how long his Nick career is. It's definitely way too early to bring it up.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think if you're going with Randall for the long term, and the goal is to win and not to, you know, keep the players you drafted or whatever it is. You want to find guys that are probably more complimentary. I don't know that RJ is necessarily the most complimentary guy that you want to kind of build around. So if there's a deal out down the road where a team says, what, with Barrett on my team, the fit is better and I think he could do a bit more. You may want to do that. It's again a little too early to think about that, but I just don't see Barrett potentially reaching his absolute peak necessarily on this team as constructed, or similar construction.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong with anything you're saying, because he's not. It's funny because in the preseason he seemed to get more on-ball opportunities than he's done in the first two games, which again I just find interesting. I'm glad he only played 25 minutes, but also at the same time it's like Tibbs obviously really trusts him and likes him a lot. In the last game against Boston, he played the whole second half. Obviously he's Tibbs is a big fan of what he can and can't do, and I don't know if he's just feeling comfortable in being put into this role, or this could be something that could be a problem if things go tits up eventually. I don't know.
That's why it's important to when you have that window of opportunity where everybody's still on board and on the same page. But the longer the stretch is out, and that's kind of like the Tibbs effect, right? Year 2, year 3 is when it peaks. Then it starts, nosediving, because if you can't win, then you sacrifice everything for the sake of the team starts to not sound as good, right? So
also it's gonna hurt his paycheck,
right? Right.
I'm sure RJ wants to get paid max money at some time.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he in his mind he thinks he's
And right now, I would want to give him what Mikal Bridges just got.
Which is what? What did he get?
It was like $22.5 million a year. I don't know what the exact numbers are. I don't know if Kyle wants to look that up for us, but I feel like that would be what I would be willing to pay RJ if he stays at what he is right now. But then the problem is that
Bridges' extension was 90 over 4, so 22.5.
Right. Okay. So I didn't want to do the math because I've been drinking. So, I just think it's going to be an interesting few months to see whether this is the role that RJ is going to be, because Randall used to look for him a lot last year, and now in the first two games, it seems like him and Fournier are very buddy. They kind of, yeah. Everyone loves Evan. It seems to be the case, and how could you not?
But I think the reason is because both those guys have things that once they cast the ball, they're more likely to score, right?
Yeah.
For Fournier, it's more perimeter and maybe him creating something after the dribble. Obi just right around the basket. If you toss it to him now, he's very good at finishing, right? RJ still struggles with that. So
my big concern is that those Orlando Magic teams, Fournier was the second option after Vucevic, and I think whether Randall is better than Vucevic was in those Orlando seasons, I'm sure that's up for debate. I would probably pick Randall because Randall can defend, but I'm kind of worried that Fournier is going to be falling into that second option role again. And all those teams were always 7 and 8 seeds.
Yeah, you can't. That's I think it's a better fit. Fournier, Vucevic was more stationary. I think Randall moves better, and the ball, the passes are in better spots for Fournier. I think it'll be good for Fournier, but yeah, definitely you cannot win or go deep with Fournier as your number 2 option.
Yeah, right. And that's, I think, another thing about speaking about Kemba and RJ. Both of them are important for them to both kind of step up. If you can slide Evan into that fourth option role, and then Kemba turns back the clock a little bit. RJ shows that him and Drew Hanlon have worked on some stuff in the offseason that we haven't seen yet. Then all of a sudden we're a lot more dangerous.
Yep. That's a really good point, because if you look at all of the top teams, the championship teams in recent years, it's not just been like one superstar that is just offensively dominant. It's two, sometimes three, and those are the teams, right? Because everything's about offense right now, and how well you can score, and how quickly, and just how much you can pile on and beat the other team, and you can't go at it if you don't have. We saw last year in the playoffs what Randall as the number one, right? Again, shot creation is not. You want someone that can actually create shots, right? It's really critical for somebody that can do that. When the defense, it doesn't matter what the defense throws at you, he can create shots. Knicks still really don't have that. They have more talent. That's definitely so. So can they get past the first round? Yeah. Can they, get to the finals? I don't think so with this. They need more talent. That's even, I would say that even with Walker being 100%.
You want as your fourth option type
Yeah,
of guy.
yeah.
Although, like everyone thought that Chris Middleton was a third, maybe fourth option until he wasn't. So I don't want to like put a ceiling on Evan, but that I think that's my biggest concern going forward. Is that if we're going to keep him in the second option role, is how really high of a ceiling does this team have? Okay, like we're better than last year's team. We're probably going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Can we get to the next round? And Fournier as a second option's never had that happen before.
Yeah, I think I think at the end of the day, it's still Walker is the key. If he can't get back to being close to the old Walker, the Knicks may be better off looking to make a deal. And I think they still have their eyes open. I don't think anyone in the front office or even Tibbs is settled and comfortable with going with this team. They could say that, but I don't think I don't think that's the case. So
who knows? Maybe Ben Simmons is coming on down.
No, they need someone. They literally, they need a Lillard level guy. Somebody like that. And if it costs you, you're gonna have to empty the bank basically. But it's what you want to play for, right? If you're trying to build for the long term, then no. But that's not this team, right? They're still trying to win. Randall could be 27, 26, but again, the window to win is always fleeting, and you want to, when you have it crack open, you want to go for it.
Also, too, I think the key thing is RJ is going to eventually get paid. And obviously, he's your best trade chip as of right now.
I think so.
Yeah, so when he eventually has to get paid, that changes the whole dynamic.
Yeah.
And
it's about timing. So yeah, like you said.
Right, and it's all about timing. That's why, again, it'll still be interesting whether Zach LaVine eventually makes it to free agency. James Harden might be making it to free agency. I don't know if I would want to watch James Harden in a Knicks uniform, but I mean that's neither here nor there. You add him to Randall and the rest of the guys, you're gonna be like, wow.
I mean, honestly, if we could, take a Harden or a Lillard, I think the obviously Randall's the other keep guy, right? The guy that has to be around. Honestly, from my standpoint, Robinson would be the third. Everybody else on the team, I would be willing to, right? Because I can see if you bring on somebody that can make an impact like that from the backcourt, Robinson's game will just elevate, and he's the the bigger one of the X factors potentially. If you get the right type of team and the right type of system and get him the ball when he's going with his size, and if he regains some of that athleticism, I think he'll make a significant impact, right? Kind of game changing as a role player. So those are I think
I mean, the Magic and the Celtics were both scared of Mitch,
right?
And obviously, this is not the best version of Mitch,
right? Correct.
Just having his presence there is important. He actually had he had 0 blocks tonight. and
which is fine, as long as he can actually intimidate.
Yeah, I mean, there was a few times I saw like R.J. Hampton and Jalen Suggs get into the paint, and they saw Mitch, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna do that little like Steve Nash thing where we go into the paint and then we leave the paint to go find somebody else to shoot." But also, that's a little bit of how the league is going. All right, so why don't we talk a little bit about Emmanuel quickly and Obi Toppin? Um, Obi Toppin with another double-digit point game, back-to-back double-digit point games. Played 23 minutes. He looked better than Quick for most of the game up until Quick caught fire and hit 3 threes in a row to finally put us over the 21 threes in a game record. Any thoughts about those two?
Um, Toppin's, he's getting there. He's getting more confident. I think he needs to still, always on the negative part. He needs to kind of get a little mean streak. If he gets, because right now he's kind of like a big happy kid that's just very athletic, right? And he's confident now. But if he can mix that confidence with the athleticism and just kind of a mean streak, he can be really something. So I think, maybe down the road, he'll evolve and into more of and it's, kind of a New York style is, what I'm thinking is where you're physical. You know, just be a meaner player. I think if he can do that, it'll just take the rest of his game, up a notch.
He needs a little bit of an edge. He's having too much fun
needs
out
an
there.
edge. He's having too much fun, and it's like he's like a big kid, which is good when
Yeah.
he's playing well. That's great, but I
Yeah,
think that's
the energy. The energy is just infectious. Is you put him out on the floor and everyone starts to go wild. And that was what was so different. He was such a lost puppy last year, and he was just like a towel waver on the sideline. And it's tough to keep him off the floor. It makes the Noel contract seem ridiculous now.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have re-signed Noah for that contract regardless. But right.
I know. I know you're Noel's #1 fan.
Absolutely.
But yeah, like him getting those small ball 5 minutes, and we're just explosive. Like that was what really got us out of the rut in the third quarter was bringing Obi in with Randall. Next thing you know, it's like we hit a couple shots. Even though he went 1 of 5 from the free throw line, he was making it rain with the rest of the squad. That's why it's so hilarious to watch. Somebody shoot 20%, 20% from the free throw line, and then end up shooting. Hold on, from 3, 2 of 4, 50%. Like, I mean, that's hysterical for me. To me.
Yeah, and IQ, I think, he's the way he played this game was more of a scoring thing, right?
Yeah.
It's and that's what he, like I said, that's what he's more geared toward. Just let the guy score. Right.
Quentin Grimes had a nice 3.
Grimes had a nice 3. I might have to eventually take back what I thought about Grimes, right?
I was not happy on draft night for sure.
Yeah, but he looks solid, right? He moves well. He's hitting his shots, unlike Deuce.
Yeah. Oh man, Deuce was pretty brutal.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that's just nerves because it was his first minutes, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So let's just hope that's it. But yeah.
I don't want to judge too much. Yeah, I don't want to judge too much by a couple minutes of time.
Right.
But Grimes' 3 looks nice. The only frustrating thing with IQ is that him getting hot in a game that was a blowout. It's like he's streaky, and we're probably going to need that at a later date. And for him to waste it on an Orlando Magic team that would probably struggle in the summer league.
But so where is he right now in the depth chart from a backcourt perspective? Like the 5th?
Who, IQ? Or,
yeah, IQ.
I would say you're probably looking at 8th in the rotation. I would say probably Rose and Burks come out first.
Right, you get Rose, Burks, and Toppin are the first three off the
Yeah.
bench.
Well, I would think that Noel would probably come in for Mitch.
Mm,
So I would say probably either eighth or ninth.
okay,
Yeah, Rose and Burks are definitely the first
ahead
two.
of them. Yeah,
Yeah, and then maybe Noel. I think Noel and Quickly could be, interchangeable
okay.
realistically. And
I mean,
I
I think he's
go
another
ahead.
guy, kind of like RJ, that's may not get as many minutes as he probably should get or he could
Yeah,
get. But so it'll be
yeah.
interesting.
It's going to take him to be hot at the right time,
Right.
and that was my kind of whole point about him being hot tonight. Where it's like, I guess we could have had more content to talk about if he quickly struggled again, and we could be talking about if Grimes was coming for his minutes. But uh, yeah, it was good to see him actually hit some shots because he had struggled from three from the summer league to preseason to obviously the first game. He stunk it up and got pulled. So
Right.
finally, good to see him hit some shots.
Yep.
Uh, any
Yeah.
other You got any other thoughts on this game, Moo? I feel like we can wrap it up.
I think we can wrap it up. I think, are they playing again tomorrow or
Sunday, Sunday,
Sunday?
Sunday.
Sunday at MSG.
With the same lovely, lovely Orlando Magic team.
Yeah, let's hope it's not a trap game.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, yeah, we don't want them
yeah.
to give up or stop trying like they did in the third quarter.
Oh, what was
Uh,
the deal towards the end of the game? Was that a flagrant?
I
Was
thought
that
so. I don't think it got called as a flagrant.
mm,
But Wendell Carter definitely went right at Randall's head.
yeah.
And then the next thing you know is that the Knicks are fouling and getting Randall out of the game because
Right.
putting Tibbs putting him back in was psychotic.
That's what Tibbs gets.
You know
Oh,
what? You
Moody,
know what
you
I
want
thought was funny about that
What?
was that was basically the same thing that Alfred Payton did like 2 years ago against the Jazz. I think we were getting blown out by them in the last minute. He just decks Jay Crowder while he was taking the three, and everyone
Oh
was like,
yeah,
"Yeah, Alfred's showing
yeah,
fight." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's him. It's
Yeah,
him being soft. If you wanted to show fight, show up before we're down 30."
yeah, that's
yeah,
some goon squad stuff. All right, Moo, since Coke's not here
yeah.
right now, we should all do scrubs tonight. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Um,
I forgot about it in the last game. So, Moo, why don't you give me your scrub of the night, Kyle? You can follow up, and then I'll do it.
yeah, I'll give this scrub on one on each team, and they both play this same position.
Okay.
For I'll start with the Magic. I mean, Cole Anthony again. He's just a brutal game. Just I don't know. There's nothing else to say. Definitely scrub for the Magic. I mean, their guys are they're young, they're inexperienced. You've got kind of I think a first year head coach. I mean, you're bound to get games like this where it looks just ugly. But at least they fought and they showed some skills, and Bamba hit some shots early, and Wagner. I like them. I think he plays with a lot of grit. He's more athletic than I think a lot of people thought he was. He moves a lot
Yeah,
better.
Franz, I was
Yeah,
pleasantly surprised of because I had been a major hater of his coming through the draft,
yeah,
and he looks solid.
he looks pretty good.
Yeah,
But yeah,
he's him and Mo Bamba are probably the only two that I can say anything nice about in the Magic.
yeah. So yeah, Cole Anthony definitely scrub for the Magic. For the Knicks, I mean, I still think it's Walker, only again because he was invisible for the second half, and that's the half I saw. And he can't be. Right. If he was if he was a backup or a third stringer or a rookie, yeah, okay, right. But he's Kemba Walker, and he's absolutely critical. He's supposed to be 1A. Right now, he's kind of like 4A, 5A, 6A right now. So those are the two scrubs for me.
I think, before Kyle goes, you think Rose overtakes Kemba at any point this season?
I hope not. I definitely hope not because they can't afford to ride Rose like that. I think every year, I mean, even last season, right in the playoffs, it was basically 2.5 games and he was done.
Yeah.
It's another year. He's another year older. I don't think they can even squeeze 2 games out of him at this point. Where he's playing a lot of minutes. On back-to-back games. So I hope not. They need Walker or they need someone.
That makes 2 of us. I hope not. Kyle, do you have a scrub for me?
Well, I mean, besides the fact that the Orlando Magic are basically scrub of the night franchise all the time, I'm gonna have to go with Jalen Scrubs for tonight. See, the thing about him is
that's who I was gonna pick.
yeah. The thing about him is, 14, 7, and 8 with 2 steals. That looks pretty nice, but a lot of that was stat padding in a second. He shot 4 for 17. He does, and when you watch him, he does not look like that top 5 prospect. I had him 4th on my board. He just did not look the part yet. He's got a long ways to go, and we're all looking like fools for making fun of Toronto for not picking him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny too. Scotty Barnes went off tonight. Maybe he didn't go off, but he had 20 points, like on 8 of 14 shooting.
He had 25 points, 13 rebounds, 11 of 17.
Like I said, Barnes was my guy. He can play.
Yeah, I'm holding a big fat L on Scotty Barnes. He was another one of my. Him and Franz Wagner were probably my 2 least favorite players in the lottery.
Hey, I'm just gonna say I had him at 5th overall, only because I wasn't sure about his offense. It's looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, that's what's so impressive, because like I always kind of worry about those guys that like most of their points come in transition, which is like also a red flag for RJ Barrett as well. But that was always my big concern. I was just like, oh, he like scores like 12 points a game, and it's all in transition.
You know what worked for Barnes, and kind of hit it? He needed to do a lot of other things for his team to be successful, and he was okay with it. But you could always see flashes. He can handle the ball for a guy his size. He dribbles extremely well, and his passing is kind of like top notch for a non-point guard. When you have those 2 things, and his athleticism, and he's always, he's very smart, and he plays, with really good intensity, it's going to translate. He may not be, averaging 25 a game for his career, but he can score.
Yeah, he's got like a little mid-post J.
Yep.
And that's not something that I ever saw when I watched Florida State. And granted, I maybe saw 5 Florida State games.
Right.
But yeah, that's huge. I mean, you see the struggles of Ben Simmons, who can only score at the rim.
Right.
And then you look at someone like Giannis, who can score from, 8 to 15 feet. There's a huge difference there. And Scotty Barnes can show that.
That's actually a good...
Actually, hang on. Can I talk about that
for
a second? That's actually a great point about what I was making earlier about the being bad at something versus not being able to do something. Ben Simmons can't shoot. He cannot.
He can't shoot.
Yeah.
Giannis is bad at shooting, but he can shoot.
Right.
I don't even know if that's the case anymore. Well, I didn't watch the Miami game where they got crushed, but he was like walking in the threes. He was like looking like Chris Middleton a little bit. But I think that's a little bit too off the topic, and we could probably chat about this off air. But Friday Night Knicks, we weren't cursed by Robert Randolph tonight, which is always a lovely thing. The Knicks beat Orlando Magic 121-96. We got the Orlando Magic and MSG on Sunday. Hopefully it's a little bit more exciting of a game, but also at the same time, I kind of hope we blow them out again. So that's another edition of the No Blood, No Foul podcast. I hope you like what you heard. Please like, subscribe, watch us, maybe super chat us sometimes. It'd be nice to make some monies.